Trump will change everything. Ukraine will get long-range weapons. The Kremlin is in panic. A secret conversation between Trump and Putin. A new offensive by the end of summer. Germany refuses. The US is providing even more weapons. Who is on Ukraine's side? I'll tell you all the details in a moment. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. I am Victoria Panchenko. And recent events? Even more weapons for Ukraine. Trump never ceases to amaze. Sometimes it gives nothing, sometimes it promises mountains of gold.
I will have a meeting with the Secretary General who will arrive tomorrow. We will send them various types of sophisticated military equipment and they will pay for it in full. That's exactly what we want. And we are trying to achieve this. Again, Biden, I don't think he ever asked for this. We have invested about $350 billion. Europe has invested $100 billion. That's a lot of money. 100, but they should invest more than we do. When we send out valuable equipment, they will fully reimburse us for it. Doesn't that sound incredibly good and fair? Mr. President, it should have been this way a long time ago. Are you still planning to send 10 Patriot missiles? Is that still on the table? I haven't agreed on the number yet, but they will get them because they need protection. But the European Union is paying for it. We don't pay, but we will send them. This is business for us. We'll send the Patriots because Putin has surprised many. He speaks well, but in the evening he bombs everyone. That's a problem, and I don't like it.
Even more so. Donald Trump is expected to announce a new plan to arm Ukraine, which is expected to include offensive weapons, according to Axios. According to two sources, they have reason to believe that the plan is likely to include long-range missiles capable of reaching targets deep inside the territory of the Russian Federation. Has Trump really changed his position on Ukraine? This opinion was expressed by Peter Dickinson, a fellow at the Atlantic Council and publisher of the magazines Business Ukraine and Lviv Today, on the air of Kyiv 24. In the expert's opinion, while previously the US president believed that the main problem was Ukraine, which supposedly did not want peace, now the head of the White House acknowledges that it is Russia that is blocking any settlement. One of the most likely scenarios for supporting Ukraine will be the approval of a mechanism whereby NATO allies purchase American weapons and transfer them to Ukraine, the expert suggests.
We find out tomorrow. Of course, it's truly hard to definitively say what former President Trump will ultimately do. But all current indications are that he really is indeed changing his long-held position now. He has finally and clearly realized that the real and pressing problem is Russia, and that it's specifically Vladimir Putin who absolutely does not want peace and is actively working against it. When his presidential term began in January, February, and March, he often acted as if he believed that the main problem was Ukraine, that Ukraine didn't want peace, that Russia was ready for some kind of compromise, and Ukraine was the one refusing. But now, after his experience over the past 6 months, he understands that the real problem is Russia. And he also sees that China fully supports Russia, that Iran fully supports Russia, and he has to act differently. That is, Putin basically gave him an ultimatum, essentially saying, I will not end my war. What are you going to do about it? And now Trump has to decide, he has to figure out how he will act going forward. In other words, he didn't really want to continue American aid to Ukraine. It wasn't part of his plans. But now he realizes that basically he has no other option. Of course, he can always refuse, but all indications suggest that tomorrow we hear about some new aid for Ukraine. What the scale of that aid will be and what it will look like, I don't know. But of course, the most interesting scenario would be if America agrees to sell weapons to its European partners. As Trump says, NATO will buy. But in reality, that means Germany, France, Britain, and other European NATO partners. They will buy from America and then transfer the weapons to Ukraine. And this arrangement is quite long-term in its outlook. So this truly means that if this significant arrangement has already been officially approved by the White House, it could indeed be a long-term American assistance Senate, entirely free aid, but still crucial military support for Ukraine.
Meanwhile, the occupiers have become more active in the media. Oh, what happened? Putin's representative, against the backdrop of Trump's statements about increasing aid to Ukraine, is calling for constructive dialogue between Russia and the US. Kirill Dmitriev, who represents Moscow in negotiations with the US, wrote on the social network X that dialogue between the countries would be more beneficial than pressure rhetoric.
Only cooperation brings true peace stability, and global security. Biden's mistakes and deceptions will be corrected. The world deserves better.
Republican U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham also speaks about the record flow of weapons to defend Ukraine.
But the game regarding Putin's invasion of Ukraine is about to change. I expect that soon you will see a record flow of weapons to defend Ukraine. New tariffs and sanctions will soon appear, ones that Trump did not have before. In the near future, Europe will strengthen its support for Ukraine. Putin miscalculated here. For 6 months, Trump tried to engage Putin in negotiations, but the attacks intensified. One of Putin's biggest miscalculations was underestimating Trump.
You will see soon a huge effort will be made to bring Putin to the negotiating table. And for China, which has been buying cheap Russian oil without consequences, those days are coming to an end.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
At times, Trump tried to bring Putin to the negotiating table, but the turning point is approaching, assured Lindsey Graham. The American senator stated that he is doing everything possible to ensure President Trump has everything he needs to end this war.
And this congressional package that we are considering will allow President Trump to impose a 500% tariff on any country that helps Russia and supports Putin's war machine. He can adjust it anywhere from 0 to 500%. He has maximum flexibility, yes, but we are targeting those who keep Putin in power. Plus, additional sanctions against Russia itself. This is truly a powerful tool in President Trump's hands to end this war.
But Germany will not supply Taurus missiles to Ukraine. Moreover, German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius stated in an interview with the Financial Times that Berlin has already delivered 3 out of the 12 available Patriot systems to Ukraine. Germany now has only 6 left. 2 more systems were provided to Poland, and 1 is constantly unavailable due to maintenance or training. Pistorius added that he plans to discuss his earlier initiative with the head of the Pentagon, which would allow Germany to purchase 2 Patriot systems from the US for Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia is preparing a new offensive by the end of the summer, according to Bild. According to the German publication, the occupiers are planning to launch an offensive in the coming months. It is also reported that Putin likely personally informed Donald Trump about the offensive during a phone conversation on the 3rd of July. The head of the Center for Countering Disinformation responded to this.
The Kremlin is planning a new offensive. It's always hard to find more nonsensical material than what Bild publishes. They have absolutely no understanding of the front or the events there. They read a bunch of Telegram channels, often Russian ones, and then write articles that get quoted here. By the way, they say they got this information from the Russian general staff. Just so you know, the Russians' offensive efforts haven't really stopped since last year. They consistently try to apply pressure. And there aren't really any new offensives as such. What we see are the deployment of reserves, changes in tactics, attempts to send assault groups into border areas, provoke battles, throw reserves into the east, and so on, including strikes on the rear. Precisely because the objectives on the front that Putin set since last year have failed, the Russian army is simply trying to push forward with sheer numbers, just to crawl ahead. And in general, they also have to make up their numbers with DPR fighters, as was the case in the Kursk region.
Moreover, Russia is focusing on ballistic strikes against Ukraine. This was stated by aviation expert and analyst Konstantin Krivolap. According to the expert, the deployment of Iskanders is a sign that Russia is trying to demonstrate its ability to carry out attacks, even if the number of strikes is limited. At the beginning of this year, 54 Iskander launchers were deployed around Ukraine's borders. However, 3 or 4 of them were damaged, and Russia replaced them with new ones. This indicates that Russia is focusing its efforts on ballistic strikes. The main intelligence directorate reported that Russia has about 300 ballistic Iskanders and North Korean equivalents.
At the beginning of this year, 54 launch systems for Iskanders were deployed around our borders. But there, 3 or 4 of them we have already damaged or shot down, and they brought in others to replace them. If we talk about this, it shows that the Russians are focusing and trying to concentrate their capabilities specifically on ballistic strikes. And specifically, not so much ballistic strikes with Kinzhal M, because, look, there haven't been more than 6 strikes with Kinzhal missiles. And this is related to the current delivery capabilities, meaning the MiG-31K aircraft. There were only about 10 to 12 of them prepared for this purpose. And the difference between 10 and 12 is whether or not to count the two prototypes, should they be included in these capabilities or not. So we have significantly destroyed them there. There are only 3 left now. That's why more than 6 Kinzhal missiles are rarely used. And there have even been cases when they would launch a strike with the MiG-31 using the Kinzhal, then return, rearm the MiG-31K, and it would take off again and launch more Kinzhal missiles. But lately, there haven't been more than 6 observed at a time. So in other words, we're restricting them, squeezing them in. We're squeezing them in both with the KH-30 and with the KH-101 missiles they're launching, the 195S, and we've pushed them far back. So it's not all that simple. And the fact that they brought in those 10 Iskanders shows that they're, going for this kind of crazy attack, trying to prove something, to show that they're still capable, that they still can do something. Well, for now, they still can.
By the way, Trump's special representative, Keith Kellogg, has already arrived in Ukraine. The head of the president's office reported that the main topics of discussion will be strengthening security sanctions and enhancing cooperation between Ukraine and the United States. And what do you think about the possible record amount of weapons for Ukraine from the US? We look forward to your comments. Stay tuned for more important updates and don't forget to like the video. Wishing you peaceful skies above.